Welcome, everybody, to our fourth edition of the IJP Global Fellows Talk. As part of the series Reset Germany, what follows after the Merkel era? The Global Fellows Talks look ahead. I'm Marco Vollmer. I'm member of the board of the International Journalist Programs, IJP, heading the exchange program with the Southern African countries. And together with my colleague Vasilios Theodosiou, I'm your host of this new Global Web Talk series today.
Good afternoon also from my side. I'm Vasilios Theodosiou. I'm the head of IJP's UK program and the program with Northern Europe. And today's topic actually was Bundestag, the next generation. What are the experience of young deputies in the newly elected Bundestag? And obviously it has changed, but not so much as you might think. Numerous MPs have entered the new Bundestag after the election in September, and they have actually no living memory, most of them, of a government without Angela Merkel. Also, they have actually no living memory of a Cold War with Russia, not even to talk about a hot war with Russia. So we are very curious to learn something about their perspective on the current situation and also of their experience in the new Bundestag after 2 months' time. Marco, please present our guests today.
Our distinguished guests of today are unfortunately not Yi-Wan Ri, member of the German Parliament for the Social Democrats. She has cancelled her attendance due to urgent parliamentary meetings in the Committee for Foreign Affairs. I think this is well appreciated, and we accept this cancellation from her side. But we are more than honored that Dr. Ottilie Klein is with us, member of the German Parliament for the Conservative and Opposition Party, the Christian Democrats CDU, representing Berlin. Welcome to our IJP talk, Ottilie, and let me start with a introductory question. What is your impression of Vladimir Putin's war he just started today in the Ukraine?
Well, first of all, welcome everybody. I'm pleased to participate in this distinguished forum today. Of course, I was very shocked when I woke up today and read the sad news about the invasion in the Ukraine. Nobody expected this harsh step. Nobody expected war in the Ukraine yesterday. I was in a special meeting of the Committee on European Affairs yesterday, and we were talking with a representative of the EU, and we were worried, of course, due to the troops at the border of the Ukraine, but nobody, literally nobody expected this step today. I'm very concerned also personally. I'm German Russian, so my parents are actually from the former Soviet Union, and my grandparents were Black Sea Germans, so to speak. They were Germans living in Odessa and in Dnipropetrovsk. That was before Stalin deported the German Russians to the very east of the Soviet Union back then. And so I'm also personally not only shocked, but very, very worried and sad. We had lots of demonstrations in Berlin yesterday and also today in the morning in front of the Brandenburg Gate. And my office, I'm right now in the German Bundestag because my constituency is the very city center of Berlin. And so I'm very close to all of the demonstrations. I'm basically sitting next to the Russian embassy in Germany. So all of this is very close, and I'm very concerned.
So thank you, Dr. Klein, for the input. Let me also introduce Kassem Taher Saleh, who's also a member of the Bundestag. His constituency is the city of Dresden in Saxony. Mr. Taher Saleh, how was your morning?
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm very shocked about the situation and the invasion of Russia and the Ukraine. I strongly condemn the Russian attack on Ukraine. It is a shocking violation of international law, I think, and it puts civilians at risk where are always the most vulnerable in armed conflicts. So I'm therefore very concerned for the Ukraine population, and Putin and the Russian government must stop his aggression directly. We also had demonstration yesterday in Dresden, close to the church, close to the Frauenkirche, and today also on Sunday we will sitting in the German Bundestag, and Olaf Scholz will speak about the situation and what we should do to do with the population in Ukraine, how we can support the situation there, and and we should also talk about I don't know how to about Strafen. Sorry for my about sanctions to the Russian government. Yes, I think the start of Nord Stream 2 was a good start, and we should also talk about more steps like this.
Thank you, Mr. Taher Saleh. To get into to come into the discussion, and before starting the discussion, I would like again to ask our alums to participate and to enrich our discussion. Raise your hand or write your question in the chat, and you're more than welcome to give us your comments or ask questions if you like. But let me start our discussion with a question to Ottilie, and thank you for also clarifying and making openly that that your parents are German Russians or Russian Germans. I'm not quite sure which is the right notion here, but my question is, what do you think about this move of Vladimir Putin? Yes, you say we are all shocked. I think this is a feeling we all have, but on the other hand, what could stop him, and how could we get out of this situation?
Well, that's a very big question. I think we all have to think about ways to answer this question. I don't have a recipe, unfortunately, which will hinder him from doing whatever he's up to. He obviously seems to want to have power over all of Ukraine, since he has invaded from all sides. I personally am also, of course, worried about the German Russians, about those who still have relatives in the Ukraine, about the people in the Ukraine who are escaping, who are trying to escape the country. We will most probably will be facing migration path, and we will see how this all is going to evolve itself. I think politically, from a German perspective, since I'm talking from a position of the opposition, what is clear to us in Germany is that we work together. Mistakes have been made, and the Ukrainians have been basically calling for help for weeks, and we're not looking at that now. Our view is ahead, and we're going to work together on this with the government. It's not about criticism. It's not a time to fulfill the role of the opposition. It's the time to really work together, both nationally and internationally. We now have to show Putin that we have a unified response, and that he cannot get away with this, because as my colleague just said, it's a breach of international law. It's an illegal step, and we have to we have to impose sanctions. Those sanctions have to be swift and they have to be sinister. They have to work basically. And so I hope that we will have a swift response both from the EU and from the US in the course of the next hours.
Well, let me add a question to both of you, a very practical one. How do you get information in this situation? You just switch on the television and watch that, or do you get a confidential brevier in the morning by someone who brings it to your home, or how do you get informed at all? Do you have any confidential information? Well, you don't have to say what it is, but do you get any confidential information that the public doesn't get, or do you get just the same and then you meet and have a discussion about that? Maybe Mr. Taher Saleh, you can start.
Yeah, firstly, of course, on Twitter, on television, on the newspapers. The second way that I get information is in our chat, where all of the members in my party into it, and we get information from Annalena Baerbock and her staff, and yeah, that's the way. But I think it isn't the information, or it isn't other informations that also online in every newspaper, but we will get the information earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If I may add to this, as a member of the Committee on European Affairs, I get some information that others don't get, and members of the Foreign Affairs Committee get other information that I don't get, for example. So there is some sort of secret information that some members of the parliament get, but all in all, I think the most important pieces of information are in the public, and what is discussed in secret needs to be discussed in secret for security reasons, and not in terms of keeping things secret. So, for example, yesterday in the Committee on European Affairs, we talked about energy security for Germany, since we are dependent on Russian gas. And this is part of a discussion that was partly held on secret information, and so I cannot share it with you, and also parts of that discussion could not be shared with us as well, even as members of the parliament. So I think it's just a delicate issue, and yeah.
Thank you. We have our own sources for confidential information, of course. We don't have to ask you. My question had a different spin. The question is, well, you may have to decide in a couple of days in the Bundestag about really heavy sanctions against Russia. Maybe we come to a case where you have to decide to send troops to somewhere in the world. Do you feel, after like 2 months in the Bundestag, well informed enough to fail such a heavy decision? Or do you say, well, this is, for me personally, a little bit too much, to be honest?
It's a good question. Yeah.
Please.
Sorry. Ms. Klein.
Ladies first, please.
So these security the discussions concerning security policy did not just start with the membership in the parliament. So I was always politically interested, and I was always well informed. So I feel very much prepared, and I'm also in touch both with the people in my constituency, but also with colleagues, with my parliamentary group. We are very well informed from the parliamentary group. So within the parliament, there's lots of information circulation. And so I feel prepared, and everything we decide together, and we discuss it beforehand, of course, especially when the topic is as sensible as it is, like war.
Mr. Taher Saleh.
Yeah, I'm full into it, because we are in discussions with other members, other colleagues. We are in discussions with Annalena Baerbock and many other people who are in the Ukraine maybe and help the people there. I think we have a lot of information about the situation in the Ukraine and also in Russia. But we should think about the next steps. The next steps should be how can we help the population there? They have nothing to do with the war. How we can help the children, the families, the poor people who cannot defend on the self way, and that I think should be the next steps. We should maybe support doctors, emergency support, and
or weapons.
Also,
we can send weapons. What do you think about that?
No, weapons isn't the right the right stuff to defend in our diplomacy way. I think the way how should we to talk with Putin in Russia should be that we are in the European Union, all great members, and that we should be think about many other sanctions, maybe economically, but not in the way that Russians come into Ukraine with weapons and the same language. We should speak another language that Putin does, and that is the way that we support the people and the population in the Ukraine.
As far as I see at the moment, there are two, not recipes, but there are two ways of acting as governments can or may act in a situation, in a war like we are facing since this morning. First, they tried to keep up all diplomatic ways, diplomatic channels, so to say. And I wonder whether you could say if you think that that will help to strengthen, to intensify, and to try again and again to maybe again open diplomatic ways. First question, or first part of the question. The second question, the sanctions. Yes, again, this morning, I think Annalena Baerbock again made sure that sanctions, that the sanctions again will be more massive than yesterday or than before yesterday. Is that the right thing to change the situation, Ottilie?
I think that we should avoid everything that escalates military action. I think this should be a premise. With regard to sanctions, we need sanctions that hurt. For example, cutting off Russia from the financial markets, maybe not Russia as a whole, but at least the oligarchs, the Putin cartel. We should also do much more. This is not a short-term measure, this is more of a long-term measure, but it should start right now, is the fight against disinformation. Putin obviously has his own worldview, and he is distributing it on his many channels, and we should be much more active with regards to disinformation, to fight disinformation, to fight this kind of propaganda that is spreading through his channels, but also in other channels. He's basically strengthening the far right and the far left political parties, and he's trying to destabilize Western democracies, and we should be very alert with regard to these tendencies.
I think we have a question from the audience, from Ali Mansu, who is I think from Nairobi in Kenya. And he asks the question, what is the responsibility of NATO in this game?
Maybe my colleague can answer that. Just spoke.
Yeah. NATO is an organization who should, de-escalate situation like in Ukraine, and I think it's one way how we can talk with Putin, and maybe on this way with other members in the NATO to de-escalate the situation. Another sanction maybe we can think about is the bank account that they have in the European Union with Putin and his cartel they have, maybe to stop the transformation of the bank accounts there. So maybe we can de-escalate the situation on this way.
I would add, Ottilie, would you like to add something on that about the role of NATO?
I don't know if the question was about the responsibility of NATO. In what terms, the responsibility for the war, or I would like to have some more clarification with regard to the question. It is a clear aggression coming from Putin, from Russia. It is not an aggression coming from the NATO. Ukraine is not part of the NATO anyways. So I don't quite understand the question.
No, I think the question was the responsibility to solve the war.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. Then
yeah,
that
no problem.
It was a misunderstanding. I see when it comes to the solving of the crisis or the support of solving the crisis, I would like to see the EU and the US working closely together. NATO is a military alliance, so we should de-escalate and not trying to further any more military action. So I would like to see it solved on a political level and not on a military level.
Thank you, Ottilie. Another question, maybe like coming from a kind of political view here in Germany. We have a former chancellor with Gerhard Schröder, who has very close ties to Vladimir Putin, and we also know that the last chancellor Angela Merkel has also, I would say, working terms with the Putin regime. What would you say to ideas about like that former chancellors should be involved in trying to find diplomatic ways and to realive the discussion, Ottilie?
Well, I think this should be something that we have to judge from situation to situation. Gerhard Schröder is obviously not a neutral person in this situation. He is basically best buddies with Putin, so he won't be somebody who can negotiate this from a neutral perspective. What we need is international diplomacy, and we have diplomatic channels that work. And so I would be rather against personalizing diplomacy and rather go through the traditional and international channels. I hope that makes sense.
Maybe we can widen the topics and the discussion a little bit to that, because when you were elected to parliament like 4 months ago, you were elected for certain fields of policy. Maybe it was climate change, maybe it was housing, maybe it was different topics. To bridge it from Russia to there, do you think that this complete focus on the change in Russia have any effect on, well, the financeability of your other goals, of your core topics. If I got this correctly, you're both not really, well, maybe Dr. Klein a little bit more active in the field of international relations, but nevertheless, this has such a major impact on all policies. Do you think it has a special impact on the policies you were intended to do when you were elected? Maybe first. Yeah, please.
Or Mr. Klein.
Whoever likes to answer.
Ladies first, I don't know.
Ladies first.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So I think part of the political game is always to react to topical situations. So I think that something like energy security will, there's going to be more focus on energy security in the future, really depending on how this war is going to evolve. It really depends on the situation. I think during the campaign, the focus was very much on climate change. The focus was very much on child poverty, on getting jobs and basically economic growth. It's still going to be about those topics in the next months, and we still be talking about minimum wage. We will still be talking about social security systems and all of that. At the same time, I think, as we see today, the main focus, if it's about life and death, then the main focus will be about security. There is no freedom without security, and so security is the most important priority, and hence I expect this to be a topic that is going to be on the top of the list. At the same time, the other topics, I guess, will still be dealt with, as the parliament still will be going on with its program. And with regards to budget, there's going to be new priorities, but that's also, I guess, a usual procedure.
Mr. Taher Saleh, maybe you like to comment on that. I think you had completely different intentions than making comments on Russia after you've been elected. So how do you bridge that?
Yeah, professionally, I'm a civil engineer. So my main focus in the parliament, therefore, to change towards more sustainable buildings with more recycled material, more wood, less concrete. I'm also a member of the community of the human rights, with the focus on Iraq and Kurdistan. But like Mrs. Klein, we are member of the German parliament, and we have to, and we should also know about all over the decisions where we take in the German Bundestag. So tomorrow we have also a meeting in the community of climate change and in the Bundestag, where we will discuss about the Nord Stream 2, and also the community of sports will also discuss how we can stop the European Champions League final of football in St. Petersburg, maybe on May. So there's also, of course, decisions which we will discuss in our party and in the German Bundestag.
But that's the exciting part of being a member of the Bundestag. You have to know about everything, and finally you have to vote about everything. At least that's the expectation of the public. So maybe you have an opinion about Gazprom and their sponsorship of former Bundesliga team Schalke 04. Anyway, apart from that, we had a discussion yesterday, and one idea was that the Russia crisis could be also an accelerator for climate, not for climate change, but for climate transition in Germany, as Corona was an accelerator for digitalization in Germany. Do you see that? Do you see if we get rid of Russian gas, that we, at least on a medium perspective, we can replace it by renewable energies, or does it help our fight against climate change, or is it a problem because we are so focused now on Russia that we don't do anything else and forget about climate? Maybe the civil engineer first. It's a technical question.
Olaf Scholz and Robert Habeck decided yesterday that Nord Stream 2 will not be continued in the building, and that's a decision they did with facts, and the facts are that the gas which comes from Russia, we don't need maybe net. Now we should import our gas from Norway, from the Netherlands, and from other countries. The more important thing is that our energy should come with the renewable energy system. So like with sun, wind, and other ways. And that is the main focus of the transformation of the energy politics in Germany now.
I think that it might create more pressure to solve the question of energy security, to extend climate neutral technologies. At the same time, I think that energy security has priority in terms of securing our working economy. Germany is the fourth biggest economy. We export lots of products. And so we have to secure that we have access to energy. And so I guess the first priority is going to be, how can we solve that problem swiftly by, for example, my colleague just said that, by working together with other European countries, by seeking new ways of importing gas from these different sources. At the same time, the long-term aim should still be to fight climate change, and one way to fight climate change is through developing climate neutral technologies, especially with regard to the energy sector.
Robert Habeck, the Minister for Economic and Climate Protection, yesterday quoted or was pointing out that the transformation now initiated by the new government is the right way, coming out of dependencies when it comes, for example, to the supply with gas or other fossil energies. And would you agree on that point, that this way of transforming our country at the moment is also a way to more peace in Europe and in the world? Is there a link from your point of view, Mr. Taher Saleh?
The independence of energy is definitely a big reason what should we start the transformation, because not also economically we are independent, excuse me, or also policy. I mean, I bring now an example. If you have your own house, and your own house has the energy that you bring into it with panels, with solar panels. So also you are independent with the energy systems. I mean, you can produce your own energy, and also that's the right way. How should we do in the federal part of the Germany? So yeah, there are a big step into the right way, because a big step is the independency of the energy system.
Dr. Klein.
So economic dependence between countries, whether that is a way to guarantee peace, I would say yes and no. Yes, after all, this was one of the founding ideas of the European Union to guarantee peace by being closer or moving closer together, by having more dependencies. At the same time, no, I don't think somebody with a worldview like Putin would be deterred by being economically hurt. So I don't know. Yes and no.
Let me maybe continue with a question that affects climate change, but also Russia. The way, how do you communicate? I mean, you represent your parties, you represent your constituencies, but both of you also represent a different generation now in the Bundestag, a generation which is used to communicate via Twitter feeds, Instagram and TikTok. I assume that, well, when you did your campaigning before getting elected, you used all these tools. How do you think you have to change these kind of communication tools once the topics you are focusing on are getting more difficult, more sensible, or more important? I mean, to make a TikTok about climate change can be funny or maybe informative. Doing a TikTok about Russia invading Ukraine is probably something I would not recommend from a communication point of view. How would you say your communication strategy has to change or changes after you have entered the Bundestag? Ladies first again, we always go that way. It's fine.
Good. Okay. I have to confess I'm a heavy user of social media. So I started it during the campaign, and I have been continuing it during the mandate during the last few months. And I think it's a good way of getting in touch and getting in dialogue with the people in the constituency, but also beyond the constituency. It's a good method to reach young people, especially, but not only. I feel like, especially as a cause, so to speak, as an effect of the corona pandemic, many elderly people have started to use social media. I'm in touch with so many elderly people on Facebook, on Instagram. So I think it's the political communication itself is in flux right now with a move towards digital instruments. And that said, I still think it's important to seek personal exchange, to go out on the streets, to talk to people on the streets. And with regard to your specific question about whether I change the medium with regard to the topic, well, yes, I wouldn't dance on TikTok when speaking on the war on Ukraine. I think that's nobody would do that. At the same time, I think it's important to keep up the medium that you established beforehand, to keep up speaking to your followers, no matter what topic you're talking to. The way you talk about it is essential, not the medium.
No, Kassem, you like to dance on TikTok?
I don't have TikTok.
Right. Sorry.
I don't have TikTok, but and then I think the difference between the political communication for 10 years and now is that we have to communicate in many ways, maybe on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, but also in the conservative press, maybe on the newspapers. So, but many new members of the German Bundestag are young and progressive, especially toward the issues of the climate crisis. So indeed, I think that the new setup of this younger, more diverse parliament is helpful for our democracy. Many are quite active, like Mrs. Klein, on social media and bring political questions into audiences that might be, I don't know, might be not have been interested in politics before, maybe school kids or I don't know, soccer player and other members of our society. But the main thing is that we have to talk with the with the people in our country, in our federal state, and in our city. It is the way with Vereine and Unternehmen. Sorry.
Clubs and companies.
Yeah, with companies, schools, and other tools in the box. The main point is that the directly communication is important for our democracy as well.
Let us maybe to come more or less to the final round of our talk of today. A question about your expectations and about your personal goals of this when it comes to this legislative term, the next 4 years. What would you expect, and what is your goal? What would you like to achieve when we would have the talk in 4 years again?
Well, first of all, I hope to be here in 4 years talking to you again, because this would mean that I entered the Bundestag again afterwards. But I mean, I'm talking from the perspective of the opposition, so it's difficult to say that I expect to achieve this and this and this for Germany. I think and I hope that as the CDU, which is my party, the Christian Democrats, we will renew ourselves. We have a new party leader. We have a new team at the top of our party. I hope that together with the new members of the parliament, we can become a strong team and we'll be able to convince the people out there that they give us their vote so that we can be in government next time.
Fair enough. And Kassem Taher Saleh, what's your expectation and your goal?
My big goal is to cut down the heavy CO2 emissions in the building area. We also need to make sure that affordable housing is available to everyone, especially poor families and migrants. There is a huge task and it is very urgent. The climate crisis is visible everywhere now, but it will become much worse in the future, especially in the urban centers where small flats offer no protection against heat waves. Maybe another fact, I became a German citizen in 2018. So the election last year was my very first federal election. And the funny fact is that I was a candidate, and even more that I'm now, the member of the German Bundestag, and it gives many other people hope, and I think motivation for their future. So I really hope that we can channel all this young and diverse energy into the necessary transformation of our society, our economy, our general politic in the society.
Thank you very much, both of you. Congratulations again on being elected to the Bundestag, which is, I think, a big honor to be elected. May it be your first election or not. We're wishing you all the best for the next 4 years, and I'm pretty sure that we will see you before the next campaigning starts in 4 years again, on what issue ever, and hopefully on easier issues than we had today on this very historic day. I'm sorry that we did something completely different than originally intended, but hey, that's how journalism is. This is called breaking news in our business. So thank you for giving us answers to the urgent questions that we have. That was our third Global Fellows Talk. I thank you very much. I thank the audience, and I hand over for the last time to my colleague, Marco Vollmer.
To be correct, it was our fourth already.
Fourth
so
already,
the fourth Global Fellows Talk. And the last one of this first series, our next one will be on March 14th. And we have then the topic foreign policy, which we will switch to how to react on Putin's war in the Ukraine. And I think this will also be a quite interesting talk, hopefully. Thank you very much, Dr. Ottilie Klein. Thank you very much, Kassem Taher Saleh, for your tendency. We really appreciated that. And to all our audiences, to all our alums, goodbye. Take care. Thank you very much that you attended our talk, and at least stay healthy. Bye.
I'll see you on TikTok then. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. See you.